So the AI revolution has started. How can an investor use AI to better the evaluation of companies and buy stocks that are discounted, that are going to go up in value? That's what I want to cover in this video. I want to go over the tools that are available and see if they're going to replace any of the data sources I currently use or any of the methods that I currently use. If you watch my videos, I like valuing companies and looking at their intrinsic value based on the free cash flows I expect those companies are going to produce. I also look at the earnings per share that that company is going to produce, arriving at an intrinsic value of that company. It's quite complicated. I have to dig up information out of an income statement. Overall, it takes a lot. The feedback I get on videos is that the process is quite complex and a little too much for most investors. They depend on other metrics to get to that intrinsic value. But if you follow investors like Warren Buffett, he looks at free cash flows, he looks at a forecast of those free cash flows, and then values a company. So it's really important for my overall process. But is AI going to be a tool to make it easier, or maybe give me more insight? I'll go through all the steps I've been going through for some time, but I'm going to use AI apps in this video and show you where it was an asset and it really helped me, or where it was just, it didn't really add any value. In fact, I probably wouldn't use it again in that particular step. The company I'm going to use is Robinhood. Robinhood's a good company, good stock's been doing really well for the past year. And I'm going to use that as my case study and really evaluate the company from soup to nuts as we go through and determine what the value is of Robinhood. I'm a stockholder of Robinhood. I've been doing quite well with the stock. And I'll make a decision whether I should buy more shares, just hold the shares that I own, or sell my shares in Robinhood. Now let's take a look at the AI tools that are available, as well as the fundamentals of Robinhood, and go through my process in evaluating this company. I've created a model where I could forecast the free cash flows for a company in the future and then discount those free cash flows to today's value. The model takes some complicated finance formulas, and that's where I hope AI really helps, makes it simpler and easier. I also look at earnings per share. But just to give you a quick tour of my model, I forecast the free cash flows, in this case of Robinhood, for the next 4 years and try to be as accurate as I can in that forecast. And then I have a growth rate on terminal value, which is all cash flows after year 4. And I have a discount rate, which then discounts those free cash flows. So I could arrive at what is the value of Robinhood. And I get to that formula here. Now, what's complicated is, the whole formula and process is quite involved. So I'm going to see if I could take some shortcuts using AI, or if I still have to go through each step to do the calculations and then arrive at my outcome. I'm also going to look at earnings per share and see if AI can give me a shortcut, a cheat code to knowing what value of this company is using earnings per share. They start with looking at the intrinsic value using free cash flows. So I asked the question to the 3 main apps I'm looking at, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Meta AI. What is the intrinsic value of Robinhood using discounted free cash flows? And Gemini was able to give me really the instructions or the outline of what needs to be done to get to an intrinsic value calculation. And all the steps they provide is exactly what I go through in my model. I asked the same question to ChatGPT, and they came up with a similar response as Gemini. Now, Meta AI was actually the one that impressed me the most. And they actually provided an intrinsic value using the free cash flows. The app automatically created everything you're seeing here by asking that one question. You can see the question that I asked up here. The one flaw in all of this is the data is more than 1 year old, and I can't depend on data that's that old. That's understandable. The AI models are these big trained large language models. The data is a little bit old. So A for effort for Meta. I think Meta did the best job, but the data is not accurate. So none of the apps were able to give me that golden answer, which is what is the intrinsic value of Robinhood using their free cash flows? So let's move on. Maybe there's other ways that AI can help me get to the end goal of establishing intrinsic value based on cash flows for Robinhood. So I tried to get to a shortcut using AI and get an intrinsic value using free cash flows using the 3 AI applications that I feel are really popular, and none of them gave me a good answer. So I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. One area that is always difficult to arrive at is the discount rate. And the discount rate for The model is basically the weighted average cost of capital, and that changes from company to company. I usually move it based on the inherent risk of that business that I feel the company has, but I wanted to go one step further. What I did is I actually wrote out the calculations on my model and did it by hand, so to speak. I wrote out all the calculations needed. But now, can I get any help from these AI apps? Let me ask those three AI apps if it could give me the weighted average cost of capital that I will then use to discount all those free cash flows in my model. I asked Gemini, what is the weighted average cost of capital for Hood stock? And it did come back with a response. It came back and said it was 12.12%. Okay. Then I asked ChatGPT the same question. ChatGPT was not able to give me a specific numeric value. It gave me the instructions on how to calculate it, but it didn't give me a value. So that was not as good as Gemini. But the one that won the prize is Meta AI. It came back with the exact number that I calculate by hand. So Meta AI won this particular question. They also won, and in my opinion, the first question I asked, which was to try to calculate the intrinsic value. They went all the way and provided a value, although it was dated, but it was probably much better than the other two answers. And this answer, they nailed it. So Meta AI is looking good. I think I could do calculate weighted average cost of capital on my own and then test it against Meta AI. Now there's paid apps online that are data sources, and you can scour the internet and find these data points. But what I'm hoping to find is just like an AI assistant like Meta AI or whichever one is the best one, just have it alongside me. So when I'm doing my analysis, I could quickly go to it and ask it a question and have confidence in that app. So far, Meta AI is looking the best. All right, so AI is proving to be of value. It was able to help me with weighted average cost of capital. The other things it can do quite well is it can probably get me the cash or cash equivalent balance of that company. I pull that directly from the financial statements as well as debt to get to an equity value of the company that I calculate. Then I compare that to the market cap of the company based on the free cash flows I expect Robinhood's going to produce. I think that their stock is actually discounted by 53% if I compare it to the current stock price. The reason getting to a intrinsic value per share is so important to me is that I want a real good stake in the sand. At what level do I believe the cash flows are going to value the company? And that's the information I'm looking for so that I can combine that with the rest of my analysis of Robinhood, which a lot of it is qualitative, not just quantitative like we're seeing here. So we got to a good number of the intrinsic value using free cash flows for Robinhood. Now let's look at the earnings per share value of this company. And I'm going to ask the same question to the three AI engines and see which one gives me the best answer. Now, to try to take a shortcut and get to the value of this stock based on earnings per share, I asked Google at Gemini, calculate the intrinsic value of Hood stock using earnings per share. And it gave me really good information, but it really was left for me to calculate it. It gave me how to calculate it, but it didn't do any calculations at all. ChatGPT did pretty much the same. And they gave me the instructions on how to do it, but then I would have to do it on my own. Meta gave me both the instructions, but it also did an estimate. Now, again, Meta's data is old. It's over a year old. So I don't agree with their estimate because the current data shows a different number. So that's as far as Meta was able to go. None of the apps gave me the complete shortcut to get into that value. They gave me good information, but that was about it. I think it's a step above doing searches for this information, but nowhere near the endpoint of getting to a good value. So I'm back to calculating earnings per share based on the formula that's been around for a long time inside of a Google Sheet. Not the toughest job to do. The earnings per share is readily available, and I'm using the expected earnings per share for 2024, making a decision on PE, which I'm going to use at 25, and just grow those earnings per share by 2%. It shows that the stock has been doing well, and it's actually being priced at a premium of 18%. Now, I combine these two valuations, but I put 66% of the weight behind free cash flows because that's the method that Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and most investors depend on. And then 1/3 using earnings per share. So I calculate that Robinhood is being discounted by 29%. So I've gotten to see some quantitative information that tells me the value of Robinhood based on my calculations. It's very useful in making a decision on this company. Now, let me look at the qualitative aspects of Robinhood, then make a decision whether I should buy more shares, hold, or sell my shares in Robinhood. So, how desirable is the Robinhood business to me? Do I believe they have a lot of advantages, competitive advantages, a moat to keep competitors out? Let me talk about that and talk about the importance of looking at a company qualitatively, not just by numbers. So, Robinhood is a new brokerage company, a new financial services company that really turned the industry on its ear when it came in and offered zero cost trades. And that really created a friendlier environment, a lower cost environment for all investors because the other brokerages had to adapt to what Robinhood was doing. This is a newcomer that was putting the entire industry on its ear. It really does cater to the next generation of investors, investors that grew up with video games at their fingertips and are very digitally advanced. They really know software. It's second nature to that investing era. Whereas I probably grew up with investors that are more classically trained on paper and then on spreadsheets, and then putting that knowledge to work. Now, Robinhood for the younger investor, there's just no question. The other brokerages cannot compete with Robinhood. And their growth rate is really creating a very good network effect where they have a good number of customers and they're able to offer new financial products. Really like that about them. I also like the fact that they generate free cash flows and profits, and they're a young company. So, growth, free cash flow, and profit, those things are a rare combination for a young company. I think Robinhood's going to continue to grow very quickly. They've been growing very well. And I put Robinhood in mostly the green and some of the gray because, frankly, they can't dominate completely, but they have really good advantages against the more traditional brokerages that I think they're going to continue to capitalize on. They also have a big advantage on new asset classes like crypto. They offer crypto, they're very comfortable with crypto, whereas traditional brokerages are just getting into that, offering it to its customers. So Robinhood is a very desirable company for me. If they continue to really execute the way they have and continue to have that culture of innovation and be obsessed with the customer, I think this company is going to continue to grow and gain value. I definitely think Robinhood is going to be worth more than 2 times its value over 5 years. So it's a very desirable company in my book. My investment in Robinhood has gone really well. I've invested $19,175 in the stock that I bought, but that stock is worth $34,490. And it's by buying by dollar cost averaging my investment in Robinhood and buying it over the course of probably about a year and a half. I'm up 80% on my investment, which is excellent. Having said that, going forward, especially for the remainder of 2024, I'm going to be holding my shares, not buying any additional shares. Main reason is it's really done well. The stock has done really well in 2024. It may give up some of those gains in the next couple months. We have this big election coming, and I continue to think that's going to introduce a lot of fear in the market. So I'd like to get through the end of the year and make a decision to continue to buy shares or even sell some shares based on the next earnings that this company announces. So that's my evaluation of Robinhood. I tried to use AI as much as I could, and it was really interesting to try to replace some of the tools that I currently have with some of the AI tools that are available. I'm going to keep doing that because the breakthroughs in AI, as soon as they become a new tool that can give me an advantage, I want to use it. So I'm going to keep looking at it and I'll keep putting it into my videos. Hopefully, you find it interesting and you find advantages in using the AI tools that are readily available these days. So thanks a lot for watching. Keep in mind, I'm just an individual investor sharing my content on YouTube. I don't recommend you buy Robinhood stocks, sell it, trade it, or hold it. I'm just sharing my experience as an investor, in this case in Robinhood. Good luck investing in 2024.